Okay. Things are mostly set up. Windows, that is not a helpful thing to be doing. There we go. Now it's on me. Look, that screen looks mostly horrible, but at the same time, it does serve its purpose, so... Works for now. Get my controller that apparently likes to disconnect itself and reconnect itself every now and again. It's weird. It's a weird third-party controller. It's what you'd expect. I also really don't know what to expect from my computer for this, because I'm doing something very silly. I've decided to throw the scaling up to 400%, just to see if it'll work. Should look nicer if it does. And I mean, in the menu here, it's still holding a massively impressive 600 FPS, but that's in the menu. Yeah, this job will work. Now my computer springs to life. Yeah, I figured I'd played enough Final Fantasy lately that I just want a break from it. Like, I can only complain about that game so much. It's the best way to put it. And I just kind of wanted a bit of a relaxing stream, which this is. I mean, American Truck is just kind of a relaxing game. Other monitor just flashed for some reason. I can make it. I should have started turning sooner, but I'm in the grass now. This is an off-road truck. Honest. That's one of these. Go. I just wish this cord I had plugged into the controller was a little more flexible. Did YouTube already pause? I think YouTube already paused. Okay, no, it didn't. Okay. It just made me think it did. It's the fun part about these streams is YouTube likes to just pause on me, which is great. Loves doing that to everybody, though, which is great. But, like, I will probably still complain a bit about Final Fantasy this stream. Also, geez, my ponytail is way too tight. Need to just not have ponytail. It's the problem with breaking in a hair elastic when you have really long and kind of thick hair is it sucks for like the first little while of you wearing the hair elastic. I need to get into the right lane. Yeah, I'm not only running this game DirectX 11, but I'm also scaling it way up. Mostly just to see how my computer handles it. And I mean, it seems to be doing pretty good. I mean, DirectX 11 is kind of where AMD graphics cards kind of shine, so it does make sense. What's that job I was going to take still here? Cool. that one I'm after. Like, I will say, mostly because I made mention that I will probably be rambling about Final Fantasy. I may as well ramble a bit about it. I have been, for the most part, enjoying my time with that game as a free-to-play experience. I am still very much in the camp of, if I had paid money to play what I have played so far, I would be very disappointed. Like, that's the mindset I've got going into it, is literally, this is a subscription-based MMO. And I'm also kind of going at it kind of games journalisty, because the average gaming adult, which would include Final Fantasy XIV players, basically spends around 60 hours in a month playing video games. On average. So, within that 60 hours is what I've played so far. I have played a month's worth of subscription for the average gamer. Average adult gamer, anyway. Like, the fact that what I have played is, well, just that. It's quite literally a month's subscription worth of time played, and I've not even got to the content most people who show up at the streams agree is good. Like, that's a bit of a problem, if I'm honest. Like, I do not understand why the game is the way it is. Like, especially, okay, so, at the point in the game I'm at, we've moved our headquarters to Mor Dhona. But here's the fun thing about having done that. The time you're naturally sent to Mor Dhona is also when you're dealing with Ishgard for the first time. You know, the people in that area. Why did we not, storyline-wise, you know, story pacing-wise, I'll say, because the answer I'll give is, well, lore. Okay. Story pacing-wise, why did we not move our headquarters then? They could have moved a lot of the quests that are currently post-main game, and I get the main reason is they didn't move it probably until after they'd completed the main storyline within actually writing the story. But, like, they could reorganize things now so that the player is getting, you know, when you move to Mor Dhona is when a lot of that stuff happens. Which would make the quest hub a lot nicer, because you're gonna be returning there a lot. It'd get you familiar with the town a lot sooner. You know, it just pacing-wise would make so much more sense to have the player end up in Mor Dhona sooner. Like, the Scions end up in Mor Dhona sooner. But they don't. Because lore. Which has to be one of the most weak arguments for why something is bad in a game ever. Because Square Enix writes the lore. They don't have to make it frustrating. They chose to make it frustrating. But that's also, you know, a symptom of subscription-based games. Just in general. Because, like, why would they want you able to get through all of A Realm Reborn in a month? If you could do that, then you'd stop playing the game until the next expansion came out. They need to make sure it takes forever for you to get through the game, or else you'll quit, and they know it. I mean, that's just kind of how subscription-based games have always worked. Even EVE Online does that. Like, even though it has a big free-to-play aspect to it now, a lot of your time is spent just sitting around waiting. Like, with EVE Online, if you get into the game because you see someone playing a Dreadnought, and you're like, yeah, I want to do that. One, don't. That is a mistake to rush into a capital ship, but that's beside the point. To train into a Dreadnought takes roughly a month of real time, or more, of rushing straight for it. You won't have all the support skills you need to actually use the Dreadnought properly. You'll just have it, and be able to sit in it. And that's just to have Dreadnought 1. If you want to actually be effective in your Dreadnought, you're going to need to train your Dreadnought skill to, say, Dreadnought 4 or 5. And Dreadnought 4 takes around 2 weeks on its own, week and a half, 2 weeks. Dreadnought 5 takes another whole month or more. I think it's actually closer to 90 days, so close to 3 months. Like, I've experienced subscription-based MMOs slowing you down, wasting your time to milk you for money. And that's kind of why I got out of subscription-based MMOs. But hearing how good 14 was, constantly, for years, I decided to give it a shot. And, well, it's not awful, but it's barely above free-to-play levels of quality for what I have played so far, and in some cases, it is worse. There are times when I am actively wishing I was playing a free-to-play MMO while playing that game. That's not to say 14 does not do things well, because it does. The class system, being able to change on the fly, that's great. Too bad they weren't the first people to do that. Nor will they be the last. Actually, I want some fuel. Oh, this is going to be annoying to pull into. Okay. I mean, by that same notion, like, Phantasy Star Online 2 does the exact same thing. So, like, it's nothing special. It's nothing I haven't seen before. It's nothing a lot of people who've played MMOs have not seen before because, well, it's been done. Phantasy Star is just the only example I can easily think of. Though realistically, you could also bring up RuneScape. RuneScape has kind of done that since the very beginning. Albeit, they've only realistically had basically 3 playstyles of, combat playstyles anyway, of melee, ranged, and magic, and for the best output, you kind of mix all 3 of them into one, at least in Classic, and in 3 you do have to focus, but in the old game, oh, of course you're pulling in. Okay. But, like, there's been games doing the play whatever class you want whenever you want and level it when you want kind of thing for a long time. That's not a selling point anymore. That's honestly something that every MMO should do. I don't hold it against the ones that don't, but it is something they all should do. So while I don't hold it against other MMOs for not doing it, I'm not gonna sit here and praise 14 for doing something that isn't anything special and should just be expected. Like, I'm not in the camp to praise games for doing the bare minimum. Though I suppose the bare minimum would be not adding it at all, but at the same time, it should be the bare minimum because, well, no one likes replaying MMOs. If you think you do, you're kind of lying to yourself. You'd much prefer playing a brand new game, I can guarantee it. Why is the speed limit for me still so low? There we go. I mean, like, given how... voice crack. Given how long, say, the Paladin has been a class in Final Fantasy XIV, it also very much does beg the question of, do the developers even know what they're doing? Because, very much so, as much as, sure, the Paladin works, it does its job, it's not hard to find other people sharing my same complaints about playing Paladin. It feels bad. It feels slow. Half of your skills are basically ignorable. And that's kind of the problem when, 90% of what the Paladin does outside of the 1-2-3 combo or the spins is damage mitigation. Of which, as has been made very evident by running into some healers that can heal well, and even the AI healing me, most of the time that damage mitigation is kind of pointless. Those skills don't really serve much of a purpose most of the time. They're just kind of there for bosses and for when the healer decides to not do their job, because they're not incentivized to do their job, because it very much feels like 14 is just DPS online. Like, that is something MMO fans as a whole used to crucify MMOs for doing. Now we're celebrating 14 because it does it? Like, I get it. Giving the clerics something to do is a good thing to do. And giving them skills to use between their healing spells is great. Gives them something to do. Other than heal. Which, albeit, is kind of what they should be doing, but seeing the sheer number of heals that a lot of the healing classes have, yeah, they're never going to run out of a heal to use, even if they're using them constantly. They're only going to run out of MP, because why give classes more than 10,000 MP when you can just give them all a flat rate? Which is another thing I just don't get. Like, especially where, from looking at things, like, it does make for... While it might make the appearance of game balance easier on Square, from reading people's comments online about the various classes, and seeing various tier lists and how most of them agree and all that, it's made the practical balancing of these classes very difficult, because effectively all 4 healers have the exact same amount of resource to use. So if any of them are more effective with that resource, ta-da, they're better now. Meanwhile, if, you know, there was just a stat like Vitality, but for MP, then you would have the various mages and mana-using classes having to actually stop and consider, ooh, do I want more MP? Am I at an amount I'm good with? And then you can balance the various, say, 4 healers based on basically how much MP they're going to have, without any player intervention. Because you could have each of them build MP at a different rate, just naturally. Like, it's just annoying to see, with all of the praise 14 gets, just how lazily it was made in spots. And hey, I got nothing against being lazy. I'm pretty lazy too. But like, it's almost like people are celebrating the laziness that is on display with 14, instead of rightfully criticizing it for being lazy and expecting Square freaking Enix to do better. Like, you cannot tell me they are strapped for cash. This is Square Enix. If they ever need cash, all they need to do is mention Final Fantasy VII, and they will rake in hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars overnight, just from the sheer mention of Final Fantasy VII. From a bunch of people who've probably not replayed Final Fantasy VII since it came out, and basically have not played it since then, and probably were way too young to actually pay much attention to the game past the visuals, and yeah. I don't like 7. So for as many problems as I've had with 14, it can be rest assured, it's better than 7. It's better than 13. So it's not better than 12, the game that it... I don't know how Final Fantasy XI plays, so maybe it plays the exact same way, and 12 actually borrowed the combat system from 11. But 14 definitely has 12's combat system, minus the context menus to use spells, because console game. PS2 console game. Like, I would... If you sat me down and forced me to play any of the double-digit Final Fantasy games that have released so far, so I'm literally limiting it to 10 through 15, I'd probably take either 12, or just because I like the characters, 10 too. I like Riku in Pain. Yuna's a little obnoxious at times, but I like Riku in Pain. So I'd play the game just to experience them again. Like... No, you don't. You don't want to play Final Hallway 13. You don't. Don't do that to yourself. The games are atrocious, so of course they would be. They're better than 7, I'll give. They're better than 7. Kind of. 7 beats them in some aspects. Suppose, at the very least, 13 and 13.2 are bad. 13.3 I'm not sure about, because I never played it. After 2 bad games, I was not gonna gamble on a third one. Like... Play Final Fantasy IX. You'll enjoy it so much more. Or 6. 6 and 9 are probably the best in the entire series. With 6 being the best, 9 being second best, 4 being third best. Of which I know a lot of Final Fantasy fans would be like, no, but 7! No, no 7. Replay it, then come back to me and try and tell me 7's the best. It's not. It's like all the people with Fire Emblem that are like, oh man, Fire Emblem Awakening's like the best Fire... No, it isn't. Just because it was your first does not make it the best. I have no idea who they are, but nice. And there's so much traffic. At this point, I'm purposely going slow just so I can create some breathing room between me and the rest of this traffic. So it's not really working out. You would think going 87 in a 113 zone, some distance would be being made, but no. That is fair. See, this is the problem I have where I just listen to music. I don't care about who makes it. I don't know bands. so there's a decent chance I might have heard some of their music before. Also, decent chance I haven't. Because I just listen to music. Mostly music I've heard before. Which is a little counterproductive, I know. But, you know. See, I'm a gaming nerd. I play far too many games. I should really play through, like, an actual Final Fantasy game for the stream at some point. Just to give some context of what an actual Final Fantasy storyline is like. Because for anyone... I'm pulling over. Let me get into this lane. I'm about to have that truck cut me off, I feel. But no, I'm gonna have this freaking van stop. Dick. That is fair. Not gonna lie, it took me 2 times to actually read that sentence, because my brain was just like, this is just words. I am still waking up, in my defense. I just got up like 2 hours ago. Which I know for most people, that's like... time to be up and going. For me, that's... I'm rarely out of bed 2 hours after I open my eyes. Let alone at my computer and streaming. I also say I've heard of literally none of them, so. So I'm just quirky like that. How do you keep track of these people? Like, legit question there, because, like, I always hear people talking about, oh man, these specific band members from something, or, like, this specific actor or director. It's like, how do you keep track of these people? Like, I don't understand how people could care that much, I think is the thing, like... That is fair, but, like, you're not unique in that, of, like, just, like, go to, like, a group of people discussing, like, movies, for example, and you'll find people being like, ah, yes, director Fizzlebop is an amazing director, you know, he's worked on this. It's like, why do you care? Like... Like, I don't get it. I just don't. I could not tell you the director of anything I have watched. Which also kind of plays into, like, the only celebrities I tend to know of are ones that do stand-up comedy, and I learned their name through that, because that is the only time their name has mattered to me. I mean, that's fair. I don't understand it. And, like, power to you. I'm not criticizing you. I know I'm the weird one here. I am very much the weird one, and I know it. I mean, that's fair. I'm just very much that type of person that, like, I've never particularly cared who makes something. I only care about the end product. So, like, you know, going back to, like, Final Fantasy XIV as a decent example of, like, everyone's like, oh man, the director, they call him Yoshi P. I think that's what he's called. He's so good. It's like, why do you care? He's not the only one working on this. There are hundreds of people here, and he probably has the least to do with it. Like, he is one cog in the giant machine. The only thing that matters is the direct output. Especially because you'll run into things that are like, you know, I've literally been told, well, you know, Yoshi P has said, it's like, yeah, but if he has said something but then not acted on it, his words mean nothing. So why do people care? And it's like, well, it's because he says all these things. It's like, yeah, but, you know, usually it'll be in response to me mentioning something that doesn't work. It's like, well, he said it's like, yeah, but if he's just saying it, then why isn't it fixed? If it's not fixed and he's just saying it, it's just fluff. Like, words without action is worthless, and he has no ability to directly act, so... I mean, yeah, I get the point of a director. But the level people, like, fixate on these specific people. That's the thing I just don't get. Which also the music has paused, so now I get to unpause the music. Because thank you, YouTube. Very helpful. I mean, like... Though at the same time, when it comes to games, it does get a little more complicated, because traditionally, the director talks to the producers talk to the departments. The producers are the ones that actually have the ability to make changes, as long as they can get it approved by the director, who may not like their change. And they may want to implement change, but the director says no, because they don't see any value in it. Which is generally how a lot of games go down the drain. y'all aren't gonna go, then I'm going to go. Yeah, it's just, I've honestly been thinking about that lately just because of, I even forget who it is I was watching that was talking about, you know, this specific director does such good stuff, except, you know, these other things they've done that are bad. It's like, yeah, it's almost like it's only the end product that matters and not so much the guy behind it. And you can have this great, brilliant director or whatever that puts out a bad movie because it's almost like they're one person. Or then you get, oh man, this actor was so good in this movie. It's like, okay, so they liked that character. That's not really, you know, a testament to how good of an actor they are. It's a testament to how much they liked the character. There's also one person I was watching, and this is kind of how music can tie into this, who's literally has talked so much, and I forget the name of the band, I forget the person, because that's how little I pay attention to names, who was like, yeah, this band's so good, just don't listen to anything past, like, their second album. It's like, why? That was kind of crap. Okay? Like, what? It's good, but don't listen to it because it's bad? Like, but, you know, these people in the band are so good, and it's like, okay, but you just said they're crap. What? I mean, that goes for literally any project whatsoever. Which is kind of why you know, it's adds to my not understanding why people get so focused on one person. Because, like, a lot of in the gaming sphere, you'll see a lot of, like, oh man, this music producer's so good. It's like, yeah, but they're only so good because of the people that are playing the music. They're just they're just handing them the music sheets and hoping. Like, if all the people actually playing the music weren't working together, playing in harmony, it wouldn't be good. And albeit a lot of these various music producers, like, they'll work with the same people for life, basically. So they will ultimately end up, you know, producing better music, but it's still not just the producer, it's everybody. Which this entire discussion is also basically a way of pointing out, look how bad marketing works on me. This new movie starring Bumblefluff McFlurry. It's like, I don't care. What's the movie? I don't care who's starring in it. Like, just tell me about the movie. I don't care about who it is. Can you imagine how different, like, every industry would be if everyone was kind of in my mindset? Like, all marketing would have to be the product itself or it just wouldn't sell. Like, I'm mostly in the gaming sphere, but, like, I was watching the, like, half of the PlayStation Direct, whatever they call it, their online show a little while back, and almost all of the trailers I saw was basically a case of, oh, not real gameplay footage, so what's the game? Like, I have no interest because you're not actually showing me the game. You're showing me freaking... You're just showing me a pre-rendered trailer. I thought we were past this back in, like, the early 2000s. When everyone got sick of everything being just pre-rendered trailers over and over again, not actually showing you what the game is. Honestly, back then, that taught me that, oh, if they're not going to show you the game, they're not confident in the game. Which is a sign to avoid the game. Here I was hoping I could get faster if I stayed on this lane. But nah. These vehicles are all going a direction that isn't turning, I guess. Except that truck turned. And that one turned. They're all turning. Why were they stopped? Oh, that one's going straight. Good. Now I gotta wait for traffic. Is it bad that the only thing I can ever think of when it comes to Justin Bieber is, one, how obnoxious his fans were, and two, how just gross the media was around him? Like, it may have left the public subconscious by now, but y'all remember when a paparazzi used an ultra zoom lens to literally take non-consensual nude photos of Justin Bieber? And the media was like, oh my goodness, look at it. It's like, I almost said a word I ban here. That is how pissed off this whole thing makes me. Like, I don't know the dude, so I can't hate the dude. I hated his fans. But, like, that made me furious that that's how the media was treating that situation. Where if that had been any, like, not even a female celebrity, just a female in general, there would have been a bloody crusade against that paparazzi. He would have been blacklisted from basically existence. But because Justin Bieber was a guy, oh man. Past that, just all of the just creepy shit that was done to him. Like, it's not hard to find interviews and stuff where literally, like, there are grown-ass adult women being like, oh my goodness, you're hot, you're cute, to this, like, underage guy. Like, when he was underage, they were doing shit like that. It's like, no, screw off. We rightfully call that shit out when it happens to women. Why are we just accepting it when it happens to a guy? Yeah, I mean, getting signed young isn't a weird thing for music, from what I understand. Like, there's a lot of people who get into music when they are, like, 13 to 16. But, like, that sort of shit is just not okay. And, like, a lot of, like, the interview stuff I know because I watched the Philip DeFranco show. Monday through Thursday. Get some news that actually is semi-relevant most of the time. And has, 99% less Megan Fox watch these days. God, I've been watching Philly D for way too long. uh... That's what they've almost always looked for. Let's be real. It's gotten worse as music videos have become more common. They care more and more about how you look. But let's be completely honest, you being traditionally attractive is something almost every industry looks for. You could be applying to be a cashier at McDonald's, and how you look is playing a major role in you getting hired. Like, it's not, it's not coincidence that most cashiers everywhere tend to be women. And it's definitely not a coincidence that most of them that, get the more active lanes or get hired at places like McDonald's, coffee shops, what have you, tend to be younger women. Like, it's because that it draws attention. I'm an overly observant little shit. So... like, I'll never remember someone's name, but, like, I'll remember exactly how many, like, caches were open at the supermarket last time I was there, and, the percentage of... well, not the exact percentage, but a rough breakdown of who was manning them, and, what lanes were getting people go to the most. Mostly, that part is mostly because I'm trying to avoid that lane so I can get out of the store faster. But I'm the one that goes to the most empty lane because I just want out of the store. I want away from people. I don't think I've ever treated even a rude customer service employee badly, just because, like... I know some people are just assholes, but at the same time, those people put up with so much shit that, like, I can't blame them for snapping, and if they want to be a dick to the quiet guy, that's fine. Like... But then again, I'm also no stranger to people being a dick to me, so, like, I'm perfectly fine with it. Oh, I get the feeling I'm going to need to be in that lane. very soon. Yeah. A cement truck. Boy, a yield sign. Bus, what are you doing? Bus, you were going more than fast enough. You could have made it. There wouldn't have been a problem. Bus, why? Saying the naughty words. Like, I managed to stop myself. I more look at Activision more or less how, like, a disappointed parent looks at their child. Because Activision used to be good. Like, if you go way, way, way back to back when Activision was first forming, they actually put a quote, and I think it was like it was one of the PC mags. I can't even remember which one it is now. Basically saying, like, yeah, we're actually gonna care about our developers. We're gonna care about the customers. You know, we're just a group of guys, like, who just want to bring people enjoyment, who, you know, we're doing this for the passion of it. And then, like, 30 years later, and they're the evil empire now. Like, meanwhile, at the time, they were literally fighting with Atari because Atari literally was not crediting anybody who made anything for them. Oh, this lane is... This frickin' bus. Bus, please, just accelerate. Quite old at this point, but you would hope that they would have passed on that mentality to the junior developers and people coming into the company. Honestly, Activision went downhill when they went public, as basically every company does. Like, it's a great boon to your profits, but at the same time, it suddenly makes you completely subservient to investors. Going public is probably the worst thing a company can do, because the people buying shares and stock in your company expect a return, and you need to deliver that return, or they'll have issue with that and probably take you to court for failing to, you know, create a return on their investment, and then force either a change of leadership or your company to dissolve. But it gets you a lot of investment. Like, it's just not worth it. So I'll never understand, like, forget the exact team now. It was one of the big esports teams went public on the stock exchange. It's like, why would you do this? And, like, initially their shares were like $20 a share. People were interested, and now they're like 50 cents. And the whole frickin' company's falling apart. Like, yeah, you went public. Good job. like, with Activision, it's just so disheartening to see how far they've fallen. When, like, a lot of old Activision commercials, where, like, they'd be talking about all these Activision games, you'd always hear the main programmer, or only programmer's name, whenever they were, like, naming a product. Which is probably partially why people care so much about who makes games. But at the same time, like, that is something no one was doing. The credits were almost impossible to find for any game ever. And credit is important. Maybe not to the level people treat it as, but it is an important thing. Like, it's kind of one of those things that people should be allowed to care about on their own, you know, on their own, but it should be available for them to see. Which is why I kind of miss games that just had a credits button at on the title screen. And then a really, really fast credit sequence when you ultimately reach the end of the game. Like, that was nice. Because it made it for people like me, who don't really care that much, to be able to, you know, not have to care. I have to sit through credits. But even with that mentality of, like, you know, screw Activision, like, I'm sure they still, somewhere, make a decent game. I say that because, like, at peak screw Ubisoft, that's literally when the, in my opinion, the best Heroes of Might and Magic games got released. Of Heroes of Might and Magic 5, Hammers of Fate, and Tribes of the East. All three of those games. Well, the game and the 2 expansions to the base game. And then they made Heroes of Might and Magic 6. Which you should only ever touch if you can get it for free. And then they made Heroes of Might and Magic 7. And basically gave it for free to a lot of people who bought Heroes of Might and Magic 6. As almost an apology, and it was still bad. And I don't think they've made a Heroes of Might and Magic game since. Could be wrong. I've never heard of it if they have. So if they have made it, they didn't market it at all. I do actually have plans of doing a Heroes of Might and Magic game at some point throughout this month. Not through its entirety, probably, but I'll probably start the campaign of 5. Just to kind of gauge if people are actually interested in watching Heroes of Might and Magic, because it's slow. It is a very, very slow game. For nerds like me. You know, I'm just going to stay driving in a completely straight line to make that truck slow down. There we go. Because I need to be over here. I also, at some point, want to either make a video series or a stream series on another Fire Emblem game. Because I enjoy playing Fire Emblem. It's just really slow. So I get the feeling a stream series might be better. Because, I mean, at least then you can directly interact with me while I'm playing. And it's slightly more interesting because you can directly interact with me. Meanwhile, with a video, you're just watching me make tactical decisions for half an hour. All of which tend to be shove a knight out front, let them tank all of the damage, while my Pegasus Knights slaughter everything. Strategy. Flyers break those games. Though a big reason why Pegasus Knights do so well in basically every Fire Emblem game is just how weapon progression tends to work. In the early game, they'll really suffer because of the weapon triangle. The early game is where you're running into most of the basic bandits and axe fighters and characters using axes, which beat spears, which is what Pegasus Knights use. As you get into the late game, most enemies are using swords, which spears have an advantage against. Pegasus Knights also have the best movement of any class, literally allowing them to completely mitigate their only weakness of arrows, because they can generally move further than an archer can attack. So you can literally move them to the edge of a archer's movement, and then the next turn just move them in, kill the archer. Like... It's one of the things that Awakening makes even more very much apparent, is just how absurdly powerful flyers are. Because Fire Emblem Awakening, you can max out any character's stats. Just max them out by reclassing them over and over and over and over again, and just allowing the stat growths to build up until they cannot build any more stats. So now, your Pegasus Knights, or I suppose it's Falcon Knights at that point, because they'll be classed up, have capped off defense and are basically flying knights. Like, you need nothing but flyers after a while in that game. Like, there are some Fire Emblem games where my flyer strategy doesn't work as well, but that's mostly in the games that have either a lot of units that can wield bows, as well as their normal weapon, that aren't archers, so they actually have defensive stats, or mounted archers, which, outside of very specific situations, have basically the same movement range as a flyer, thus giving them more effective range than said flyer when it comes to combat. I should actually do like a Fire Emblem game that I've not really played before. The only issue being with doing a Fire Emblem game as a live stream is there's a lot of resetting involved with how I like to play, because I like to recruit everybody, which generally requires some trial and error. Especially with, what's the sequel to Shadow Dragon called? Well, the sequel to Shadow Dragon on the DS. There's a character you can recruit that basically is a villain for most of the game. But how you recruit her is your main avatar character must talk to her 3 times. So I hope you've been using your avatar character up until that point. Otherwise, yeah, you're not recruiting her because she will kill you. Because she's still trying to kill you this whole time. You also need to prevent her from killing herself, so you can't be... Basically, if your avatar character is a mage, you basically have to disarm yourself, because otherwise, she will kill herself on your retaliations. Like... It's just obnoxious. Also, in I think that exact game, there was another instance of having to recruit 3 cavalrymen who basically all need to talk to a very specific cavalryman you have. But you've just got this guy, and they will absolutely wreck him if you just try to talk to them. So my go-to strategy there was to hand my general, my upgraded knight, no weapons whatsoever, and just have them stand there until these enemies broke their weapons on her. Which was some 30 turns of just standing there, letting them slowly break their weapons. But it worked. And, like, I definitely could have done it faster if I had basically made better use of baiting and lured some of them off, and, you know, made use of the rescue spell, or rescue staves to, you know, recruit one and then rescue the guy so he doesn't die, and then use another rescue staff to rescue the guy I just recruited so he doesn't die, and then rinse, repeat. Basically a case of, if y'all thought I had a lot of opinions on Final Fantasy, I have probably more on Fire Emblem. Like, I'm one of the few people that, Three Houses did not impress me. Like, it's not bad. I've never finished the game, though. Because I basically hit a point of realizing, oh, I needed to be doing so much more busy work so that I could actually recruit everybody. Because that's how I like to play Fire Emblem, which basically means I need to start that game all over again. Because I did not realize all of the busy work I had to be doing to make friends with everybody from the other factions so that I can actually recruit them. Because I figured it would probably work like a normal Fire Emblem game, where, you know, characters you meet and can interact with in the, you know, in the prologue, you don't meet again until you can recruit them like 30 some chapters later. But nah, these ones, if you miss them, you miss them, and now you have to kill them, which is the worst bloody feeling in any game, knowing that you have to now kill a recruitable character because you missed out. I actually might use the motivation I have for this month to also work on a Fire Emblem series. I want to do that now. Now that I've mentioned it, I want to do it. Well, I've already done one Game Boy Advance game. I might do one of the other ones. Because I have actually done Sacred Stones. Which, honestly, anyone looking to get into Fire Emblem, I would honestly suggest you start with Sacred Stones. Purely because you don't have to worry about knowing anything to understand what is going on in the story, because it takes place in a completely different region. Three Houses also seems to take place in a different region, but also is a lot more complicated than Sacred Stones. And once again, has a lot of, you basically need to research and do busy work. A lot of Sacred Stones recruitment you can kind of figure out on your own. A guide helps, but most of it you can kind of figure out on your own. You know, like the swordsman you saw in the cutscene who was escorting the cleric and basically made mention that he would do no harm to women. You probably want to talk to that guy with a female character to recruit him. Like, hello AI. I've been rambling about Fire Emblem. Like, a lot. Like, I know a lot of newer fans of Fire Emblem would be like, oh man, no, Awakening's a good place to start. It really isn't. That is fair. Snacks and food is good. But, like, Awakening, if you're not already a Fire Emblem fan, is probably not a bad game to start with. But, if you are a Fire Emblem fan, or even if, you know, if you aren't, and then you try to go back and play some of the older games, you are going to, one, be lost, and two, probably be frustrated that you can't, you know, you can't max out everyone's stats, and it's not a dating sim game. Because that's basically all Awakening is. It's a glorified dating sim. Masquerading as a Fire Emblem game. Where it basically turns the game from, you know, caring about characters' personalities to who can I breed together to get the perfect child? Because your character's children come to help you, and they will have better stats than their parents. Meaning they are the optimal units to use, and, you know, if you breed this one and this one together, you can get this stat on someone who can't normally have this class, well, this skill on someone who can't normally have this class, and it'll be better. It's, stop it. So do it. If you think you can do it, do it. I really need to get back to World at some point and finish the content I've not actually played. But I want to finish Sunbreak first. Which I am kind of waiting on Robotic to continue the main story on our basically our shared save. My video series I've been working on, I'm actually decently far into. When I say that, I've got like, I think I've got like 10 episodes recorded. I need to actually get back to editing them. And then start getting them uploaded, and then recording more. It's a lot of HP. That's like 66 of the Greatsword's best hit. That big super hit that I can never figure out how to do. I've tried so hard to make the Greatsword work, and I do not understand. The combos just seem to happen. I don't understand how to make the combos happen. They just happen. Like, I know it's a lot of charging, but like that's about all I can figure out. Like, that's why I like my Switch Axe. It's easy. The combos are easy. I know the basics of every weapon. Like, I wouldn't be completely lost if you handed me any weapon. I just don't know how to use them to their full extent. Mostly because a lot of them I've tried and I'm like, no. No, I can't get into this. Like the lances. When I was younger and playing 3-try, I loved the lances because I like spears. But, like, I was not good with them. And I'm still not. I mean, regular lance doesn't seem that difficult. It's poke, poke, poke. Poke, poke, poke. Or poke, poke, poke. Like, those are your options. It's just 3 pokes. Like, that's pretty easy. It's getting near the monster to do the pokes that I don't fully understand with the lance. Gun lance, you hold the shield up and poke. No joke, my very first time ever beating Rajang. In World, so Master Rank Rajang, I used a gun lance. I held the shield down. Like, I held block, and I attacked. You block more than half of the time, and you poke. And that is literally how I beat Rajang. Which is partially why I'm like, man, why are people complaining so much about Rajang being so easy in Rise? Like, one, he's high rank instead of master rank. Of course he was gonna be easy. But, like, I get it's so wrong to do it, but it worked. So, like, I'm not gonna argue with it. And then I repeated that in Rise because it worked. Like, I still had some moments where I had my ass flung around, but, like, it worked. Probably a fair bit. I don't really know that much of how the endgame weapons are like with World. Because, well, I've not gotten past Raging Bracky. I've gotten close. I've gotten him to his last phase, but I've not beaten him. Raging Bracky does not exactly work well with my playstyle of HP as a resource. I need to actually think. And thinking is hard. Yeah, you could probably solo it, so wouldn't really help me learn how to fight him any. I'm confident I can beat him. Like I said, I just want to get through Sunbreak first. Of which, at that point, probably the next Monster Hunter game will be out, and I'll continue with I'll get back to it. I mean, I've been slowly working through 4. That's one of my problems with World, is I don't like mixing armor. It's like, I don't use layered armor much. I want my armor to at least match. I mean, that is fair. That is fair. I remember so many people being like, nah, Divine Blessing's shit, you should never use it. Meanwhile, I still tend to use it every now and again. The armor that my character's wearing at the moment in World is the variant Valhazak's armor. Because nothing like regenerating health past your past your recoverable health and recovering it quickly. The way I chew through my health, like... I mean, the general argument, and it's usually from, like, it's basically the diehard veterans that you wouldn't really want to take advice from anyway, because they're just bitter assholes, is, well, you should just dodge the attack. You shouldn't be taking it in the first place, so that makes Divine Blessing worthless. It's like, yeah, but I'm not good enough to dodge every hit, so how about I take something that gives me some level of forgiveness half the time? I mean, I do tend to use dragon elemented stuff, but that's mostly just for the extra bit of damage. And most things tend to be weak to dragon. I don't tend to focus into the element, it's just an extra bit to be there. I am very much the type of person that likes to chew through my health like candy. which is going to be the one thing going back to World that's going to be hard to get used to, is not having the Switch Axe's charge from the Wirebug skills. Because, like... that is just so nice, to be able to basically ignore the knockback from basically almost any attack. As long as it's not a grab, you can just ignore it and attack the monster through it. You'll still take the damage, but you ignore the knockback and stun, and now you're on the other side of the monster now. Whoop. Whoop. Why turning? My arrow keys are set up and I was pushing down the arrow key with the cord. That's why. I had the invulnerability mantle. I don't know what it's called, I just know invulnerability. As well as the vitality mantle. Because health, I need it. Lots of it. Plus, I put in a lot of work to get that invulnerability mantle. Lunastra was no joke when I got to her. But I also, you know, did that before I had Iceborne, so... and before I was even fully through all of the regular game equipment, so... I mean, that's fair. The Switch Axe doesn't dodge, in case you've never noticed. Like, it does, but like so much through its combo, it's locked in place. So... through so much of what the Switch Axe does, you just cannot dodge. So having the Temporal Mantle dodge for you is nice. Oops. Like, once you've committed to that heavy combo with the sword form, you're committed to it. It's just kind of how it be. Also, no, I need fuel. I never did much with the slinger. That's one thing I really needed to actually start using more was, like, the slinger and the clutch claw. My slinger, I would generally have flash pods in it, and that'd be about it. That's all I would really use it for. Flash pods. And just the clutch claw I'd almost never use. Meanwhile, with Rise, I actually use the switch bugs quite a lot. That is fair. I really need to get back poking at 4, but that means fighting Congalala more, and I just really don't want to fight the Fart Monkey anymore. I don't feel like I can be blamed for that. I imagine it would be. I just got thinking of something. It's mostly because I had, back when Final Fantasy XIV and Monster Hunter World had their collabs, which apparently that collab quest is still in 14, and I might actually, if I can gain access to it, I might actually see about poking at it. I had actually joked with the person I know who plays 14 that they should have actually went with a monster that's intimidating, because the monster you fight in 14 is just a Rathalos, just a regular Rathalos. And I was actually mentioning how they should use Fatalis. But that actually adds to the funny context of it, of like, Behemoth is actually a massive threat in 14, and you basically require a party to fight him, and all that. Meanwhile, in Monster Hunter, he can be soloed by a naked man with a bowgun. Like... And then you get the Final Fantasy, you know, the Eorzean Crystal Bearers struggling to fight a single Rathalos with a team of like 4 people. It's like, I still feel like they should have went with an actual intimidating monster. Like, at least a silver Rathalos. You know. Something more than just a Rathalos. But Rathalos is the poster monster for the entire series, so... Yeah. Like, either of those would have worked. Even just regular Deviljho. Like, or even just regular Rajang. They're more intimidating than Rathalos is. Rathalos is annoying. It's not intimidating. Hey, truck. You want to speed up? Pun very much intended here. Jesus Christ, why are you going so slow? You're just carrying hay. It's not that heavy. I mean, Rajang definitely does still fight the other Elder Dragons. And is fully capable of fighting them as well. They just have to have the misfortune of getting near the Rajang. I think it's Devil Joe anyway, is the only monster to have lost its Elder Dragon status. I think it was an Elder Dragon at one point, and then suddenly wasn't. I think it's Devil Joe anyway. Might not be. I know there's one of them that was an Elder Dragon, and then lost Elder Dragon status. Trying to think. Part of me's not questioning if it was actually Devil Joe. So it might not have been. Most certainly. I mean, a lot of the really, really big Elder Dragons could probably actually, lore-wise, compete with Fatalis in terms of just raw strength. Especially in cases where, you know, Fatalis might have to fight them on their own turf instead of its turf. Case in point, the big-ass sea creature from, 3. I forget its name. Sadius, I believe it is. If Fatalis had the misfortune of encountering that thing and got drug into the water with it, Fatalis is probably screwed. Let's be honest. Shigeru Magala would be a threat to Fatalis for reasons other than just strength. Mostly because, well, there's no guarantee Fatalis would survive the Frenzy virus. So that would be a case-by-case basis, because not every monster that can survive the Frenzy virus does survive the Frenzy virus. So Shigeru and Gormagala would still be a threat to Fatalis, basically turning it into a coin flip. Yep, you've explained that one before. mean, there are variant Fatalis. There's Crimson and White. They're from 4. Which is partially why I want to get back to 4s, so I can die to those if I can even get to them. It's just gonna take getting past Congalala. Which I don't have issue with fighting, like I can beat him easily enough. I just don't like fighting the fart monkey. I just don't like the fart monkey. It's not like it's a difficult monster, I just hate it on a personal level. Nice. Ooh. Okay, my truck's more damage than I thought it was. Hello, Valentis. Welcome to I Am Not a Good Driver. I don't have my license, can you tell? I have not. I have not watched those. I wonder how far I am from a service station. Probably quite far. I don't think I'll be speeding up to 100. It just seems like a bad idea, given my truck's engine could cut out at any moment. Nice. I don't think I've touched a Street Fighter game since 2 on the SNES. I'm old. I'm very old. In my defense, that game's older than I am, I think. No, it's older than I am. We just lived in the middle of nowhere and had an SNES and a used game store that sold SNES games. So, like, I was usually a year or two behind in terms of new releases, new consoles. I may give it a poke at some point. I've never been the biggest fan of fighting games, though, so it's unlikely I'll give it a poke. But I might, if I can get it cheap enough. Well, I suppose I say that. I liked Soul Calibur. So. But I think that was mostly just I liked the characters in Soul Calibur. I mean, I like the Street Fighter characters too. It's just Soul Calibur characters had more personality. And then there's Ivy, who had, she had a lot of plot going on, and some good backstory, so. That's the first time I can say with confidence, that is purely a joke. I was never that into Ivy. I'm at the point I just don't care about De Nouveau anymore. Like, I dislike DRM in general. Because all it does is hurt the paying customer. But, like... I have Smash Brothers. Does that count? I have all the Smash Brothers, except the N64 one. Don't have the original. We rented it a lot, but we never bought it. We probably should have bought it at some point. Would have been nice to have bought it, but, you know. I know it's like a deep fighting game, Smash is probably not the greatest, but like... For someone like me who's not a big fighting game fan, it's a great game. I am literally the target audience of something like Smash. It's the same as, like, for a racing game, Mario Kart isn't the best, but it's good for people who aren't into super serious racing games. Something Nintendo seems really good at is making the game for the people that aren't really into the thing, but, you know, like to play it every now and again. And my music just paused again. Thank you, YouTube. Thank you, YouTube. Very helpful. Very helpful indeed, YouTube. Yes, I am still watching. Imagine that, YouTube. I also have a Discord notification. Gotta deal with that, because it'll bug me if I don't. I don't even know how audible the music is. I just want it there as a bit of extra background music. Mostly for me, because I'd go insane if it wasn't there. It's more I'd fall asleep if it wasn't there. See, I'm happy with Mario Kart. I mean, I've played other racing games, but like, I always come back to Mario Kart. It's just the most, in general, fun to me. But I'm not that super serious into racing games, so... So if I remember my exact placement right, I'm also, like, in the top 300 for a couple time trials in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, so... you know. I can get competitive in racing games when I feel like it. It's just most of the time I don't. That's why I stick with Mario Kart. Thing, and I've also just kind of been a lifelong Nintendo / PC gamer, so... One of the first things I ever used a computer for was emulating SNES games. And playing one of our many hundreds of old CDs that no longer really work. Because, well, backwards compatibility has only gotten us so far. A lot of Windows 95, 98 stuff just does not work anymore. No, I actually need to hold my controller. Damn it. Trying to be lazy. Ooh, I see a service station. How close am I to my destination? Okay, I'm right here. I may as well deliver and then go to the service station. I mean, I get the temptation to watch anime, and then I just watch whatever looks the most interesting, so I undoubtedly watch some bad anime. And I also have rewatched I'll admit it, it's not a great anime, mostly because it just never got a second season. So I watch at least one bad anime semi-regularly, because I like Star Ocean, and it's the Star Ocean anime. They got to the end of disc 1 and then it just ends. It makes me sad. I mean, to be fair, the animes that everyone tends to cry out are like, the best anime, tend to be things that have so many flaws in them. It's just these people enjoy them because they're so invested at this point. Like, even when I tend to enjoy Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball's had its ups and downs. Like... Like, if you ever want the Dragon Ball Z experience, and you don't want to deal with the bad parts of it, just go watch Dragon Ball Z Abridged. You'll get all the good parts without any of the bad parts and added jokes. It's just better. But that's what happens when they cut out the Boo Saga. God, the Boo Saga. And just avoid Dragon Ball GX. And you also get people who are like, oh man, Naruto's so good. It's like, it kind of isn't. It's kind of bad. DK agrees. I don't even know if y'all could hear the DK going, yeah, in the background. Because once again, I know the music's really low. Problem with being streaming right now and having the sudden urge to work on a series is I kind of can't while I'm streaming. I need to decide what Fire Emblem game I want to play before I can actually start working on the series, I suppose. Because I've already done Sacred Stones, so I might do. It's Binding Blade is the first one in that set of games. Binding Blade, then Blazing Blade. It's Roy's game. / Roy's father's game. I can't remember his name at the moment. The only one of the parents I can remember from those games is Hector. It's because he's the best. I don't need the XP. I'm at such a point that XP just does not matter. 15 XP would not have mattered. It's, let's go high value. That is fair. Sounds like a very self-aware anime. It's just getting some screen tearing. Yeah, and it's on my monitor too. Because it's not going through that, so I know it's not. Ooh, I think my monitor's dying. Okay, I'm gonna do a thing. I'm gonna see if it's maybe this causing problems. I'm gonna lower it to 300. It's probably not. It's probably my monitor is dying. I do have a backup, but I'd rather not use it. Because it's also dying. Come on, monitor. You can hold out for like a month. It's only 13 years old. It can hold out another month. So I know if it was the graphics card derping out, it would have been visible on the stream. So the game's gonna look a tad worse, but not by much. So it could just be my monitor was disagreeing with the level of scaling. I don't know. Because I really cannot operate on one monitor, so... My backup at the moment, if this monitor dies, is my TV that's sitting there is going to move in front of me, and my old TV that has a few dying pixels on it is going to become my secondary monitor again. So I'll be running on 2 TVs instead of a monitor and a TV. That is one thing. I kind of wish computer monitors would have actually gotten decently cheaper over the years. I mean, some of them have. There's actually one on Amazon I've been looking at that is probably what I'm going to get to replace my main monitor here. And if I can, I'm just going to get 2 of them and replace both of my monitors. That's a 165 hertz monitor that's like $120. Apparently it has some ghosting issues, but like... I'll take it. It's one of those monitors that basically everyone in the reviews seems to agree that, like, it's good for its price. It's not an amazing monitor by any means. But, like, it's good for its price, and cheap is kind of what I need. But, like, when you've got 165 hertz monitors that are cheaper than 60 hertz monitors, that's a little silly. I did not notice that truck. Sorry, truck. Can you tell I don't have a license? Probably tell that just by how damaged my truck is. I am a very unsafe driver. I also discovered some stuff with OBS that should make having robotic join easier once I get it set up. I can apparently, wholly apparently, I don't know, I've not tested it yet, but they have a beta feature for capturing audio from applications specifically. So I should, in theory, be able to just capture Discord onto an audio track, which will mean I'll be able to actually adjust her audio level, have it separate from whatever I'm playing, which will also presumably mean I'll have to capture whatever I'm playing on a separate audio track as well. But if it means I can ultimately make everything sound better, then I should do it. I just need to actually, like, do it. Go fix my truck. Nearly $10,000 in damage? Yeah, just fix it. I'm a millionaire. What do I care? It's one of those games that, like, the repair costs make... Once you get going, make almost no sense to still exist. But at the beginning, they're neat, and they add some flavor, so, you know. Top up on fuel. Let's see. Job market. What do we got? Trucks. That's good money. Could take cars. Cars will take me back down to California. It's close to where my home base is. I think my home base was San Diego. So down here. I don't actually remember though. It doesn't reset me there anymore anytime it puts me back to a safe spot. That's going to take me actually into a city. This isn't. It's going to leave me on the outskirts. This is going to take me to somewhere new. Yeah, I'll probably do this one. I need coffee first, so I will be right back. I return. Well, I'm here. I should actually make sure that YouTube isn't like, hey, you still watching? It's like, yes, YouTube, I'm still here. It isn't. I give it like a minute, and then it'll be like, hey, you know, the little notification in the corner, are you still watching? Or we're gonna pause in a minute if you're not. Because that's just how YouTube be. So also, thinking of computer stuff, I swear, every time I stream this game, I get talking about computer stuff. But, there's actually something kind of funny that, one of the YouTubers I watch ran into recently. So, they have a PC for streaming, but they're primarily a Mac guy. They did not know that you shouldn't plug a display out into both your integrated graphics and your dedicated graphics. So they had a cable plugged into both, one in each. And they were having computer problems and didn't understand why they were having computer problems, and that's literally why. It's just kind of how that works. Like, the computer is getting confused because you're feeding it two very different signals. You know, one is going exclusively through the CPU, and one's going from the GPU to the CPU and then out, basically. Well, more CPU to GPU than out, and one's going just CPU out. And it creates confusion and bugs and just kind of doesn't work. You say, like, well, the Mac is just any plug works. Yeah, that's because you barely have any plugins. So of course all of them are gonna work. Because you have, like, 2. Woo. I'm fine, everything's fine. I was just on 3 wheels for a moment. Yeah, I might, once this stream is done, see about scouring Facebook Marketplace for a new monitor. See if I can get one that's worth buying. I might also pay a visit to the pawn shops or something. I've carried a monitor home before. As long as I can lift it, I can carry it home. Though that won't be until a few days from now when all the rain we're about to get stops. But we need the rain, so I'm not going to complain about it. For those who might be unaware, I know I've mentioned this a fair bit in streams. It's mostly because it's not terribly far away from me in the grand scheme of things. A good chunk of Nova Scotia is on fire right now. In barely contained to uncontained wildfires, so... I'm trying to keep a close eye on the monitor to be like, am I seeing any other signs of it dying? Because if I think I can get another month out of it, I'm gonna see about that. Because Nova Scotia is starting a green energy incentive soon, which will basically be in about $130 every 3 months. But that can easily go with the money I currently have, that albeit is set aside for other things, but I do have it to get the, to just get a new monitor or two. Which is gonna suck, because I was kind of planning on that money being used for Robotic's birthday. If I even end up receiving it. Because it's kind of gray on who's gonna get it, so it was on my taxes that I might get it. So all I can do is hope. I mean, the intention of it is that you'll spend it on, you know, green energy. But also, that is not enough money to really spend on green energy. Like, if they want people actually spending money on green energy, they need to up that amount, add an extra 0. Then it might actually be a bit affordable. Because, like, I'd love to get, you know, some form of solar panel set up to charge a little generator with, so if we ever lose power, we'll at least still have, you know, a big-ass battery to charge things off of. But that's, like, a few $1,000s to manage, like... Which is why the best I've got is a little handheld battery, which I really do need to get charged up again, because hurricane season's a starting. Nova Scotia traditionally only gets hit with hurricanes in the fall, but, well, so far this year has been anything but traditional. We've already had record-setting heat, so wouldn't be surprised if paired with that comes early hurricanes. And after, I even forget what the name of the hurricane was that hit Nova Scotia last year. But after it having knocked out power here for basically a week, yeah, I would definitely be investing in ways of making sure I have the ability to power things. I mean, honestly, I'd like to have a decently big solar panel, as well as a decently big battery to charge with said solar panel that would run my computer for a few hours at least on a full charge. That way, if we ever lose power for that long again, I'll have a way of actually continuing to exist. Undoubtedly would piss off the other people here that I'd be using my battery for that. But if I had the money to buy a battery that big, or a set of batteries and the solar panels, I'm going to use it however I feel like. It's actually a lot of the wildfires now are apparently being caused by power lines sitting on trees still from the hurricane. Which honestly, like, don't like that. I don't like that they have not cleaned up the power lines. Like, it's been damn near half a year. How have they not, checked all of the lines already? Well, I know how. It's because it's Nova Scotia Power, and they're understaffed and under in the amount of fricks they feel like giving at any given time as well. Which actually got thrown around a lot during the big outage from the hurricane last year. It's like, well, if you want your power back sooner, go work for Nova Scotia Power. It's like, well, I mean, one, I'd love to, but there's no job listings anywhere. Except for ones that I most certainly do not qualify for. Because I'm not an electrical engineer. Like... A lot of people who are trained electricians would rather work as electricians than Nova Scotia Power employees because they get paid more to work as a general electrician. So anyone that's actually trained for working on this stuff, aside from the people Nova Scotia Power themselves train, well, they're not working there. Because why would they? It's just kind of one of those things where, like, the monopoly that Nova Scotia Power has is its biggest downfall. Because the fact that there is no competition to them, and no one can get a foothold to be competition because they own the power lines, because that's a smart decision this province made. Like, there's no one to compete with them for prices, wages kind of deal. So they just pay whatever they feel the people are worth, which clearly is not what they're worth. And no one wants to work for them. But I kind of ranted enough about the power outage last year. I just hope it doesn't happen again this year. Though I'm not getting my hopes up that it won't. That is literally why I bought the little battery I have sitting next to me that I need to get recharged. Because I used to use it for recharging my controllers, so it's probably pretty dead by now. I'd use it to recharge my controllers, my phone while I'm on my desk, But you might be wondering, why wouldn't I just charge those with my computer? Like, well, my computer has one controller plugged into it all the time. That I'd have to unplug this controller and then deal with the computer trying to pair whatever other controller I'm plugging in to it. And I really don't want my Switch Pro controller paired to the computer. That's what I have this third-party one for. And then my phone, I just don't have a spare USB port on my computer, period. All of my USB ports are filled except for one USB-C to C port, and I do not have a C to C charger. So, and that's also on the back of the computer. Which, can I just say, I do not understand why people are so obsessed with USB-C. I just don't get it. I also don't get why everyone's moving towards that as the one and only USB port, basically. Like, especially where the argument is like, oh, well, it's to reduce e-waste. Okay, but then why aren't you using the standard size USB port that everything USB can plug into? That's not a small size USB. Eliminating e-waste that would be immediately created by the removal of standard USB ports. Because, like, if everything instantly... Ooh, that's bad looking. That has yet to load, whatever that is. Or maybe it has loaded and it just looks weird. No, it just looked weird. Oh, it's a... Okay. It's a building being constructed. That's why it looked weird. But, like, if all of computers and, like, everything basically moved completely away from the USB standard we've had for decades. As long as I've been alive, at least. So almost 3 decades. That would immediately make everything that has been made in those 3 decades worthless. And junk. It would immediately mean all of that stuff basically has to go to the landfill, or you have to buy extra things that will end up in the landfill eventually, just to continue using the products that you have. It's the same as this stupid ATX 12VO power supplies. Like, all it's gonna do is make all existing power supplies e-waste. For what? Like a 5% gain on efficiency at idle power. Yeah, that's such a great boost. That's a great reason to create a ton of e-waste. To make computers slightly more efficient when they're already barely drawing any power. Yes, that's a great use of everyone's time and money. Though, ATX 12VO also has the brilliant downside of it passes the voltage conversion onto the motherboard maker. And as ASUS has proven, that's not a good idea, because they already take liberties with what they are told to do. Liberties that can cause, you know, parts to break. I would not trust a company like ASUS at this point to properly convert voltages. Who I would trust to do it is EVGA, Superflower, Corsair, you know, the companies who make power supplies, who have been doing it for years and know what they're doing. I'm not really gonna trust that, you know, ASUS, or MSI, or ASRock particularly know what they're doing when it comes to voltage conversion. I guess I have no reason to trust them, because, well, ASUS has proven recently that they do not care, and the other two have basically never done it before. ASUS has never done it before either, aside from, you know, changing the voltages on their motherboards to completely fry your components. They've done that. You know, going well above the maximum spec that they're told by AMD and basically purposefully destroying components. That's great of them. You didn't want those components anyway. Oh, and then if you want to actually install the beta BIOS that'll maybe fix the problem, yeah, your warranty goes away. Though not anymore, because the tech media pointed out how utterly stupid that was. That turn was a bit sharp. I mean, it is very much one of those things. If you should never really trust a company to do what they're supposed to do. But you should be able to have some level of trust that, you know, a company that's been making motherboards for decades probably knows what they're doing when it comes to making motherboards. And, you know, is probably following suggested spec from the companies who make the components that suck it into the motherboards. Because, like, who's to say that the one outlier voltage on that Asus motherboard was the only one? Who's to say that they're not overvolting your RAM or something? Which would be less noticeable. Less catastrophic, but less noticeable that they're doing it. But it would still shorten the lifespan of your RAM. Who's to say they're not overvolting your SSD and SATA ports? Not immediately noticeable, but it will definitely shorten the lifespan of them. Like, now that Asus has been caught out overvolting, I don't know how anyone could trust them to not overvolt. Because they've shown they're fully willing to do it. And, like, this was on a high-end enthusiast-grade part that they were just utterly disregarding basic safety functions. And overvolting. But enough of shitting on Asus. I will say, like, if anyone watching has, like, cheap monitor suggestions, feel free to suggest them to me. For anyone watching this in the future, that obviously only really applies for close to when this stream happens. It's like, if you're watching this stream in, like, 2025, I don't need monitor suggestions anymore. Unless maybe I do. Maybe I've kept this monitor going for another couple years. I doubt it, because that was some worrying signs. Like, that was very worrying. Though, that might have also been the cable, not the monitor. Because it's a DisplayPort to HDMI. Right. There's still other variables it could have been. And I don't have a spare DisplayPort to HDMI cable to test with. The best thing I could do for testing that, though, is just swap the cables between my two displays and see if my my alternate display is having that problem. I'll have to retell the computer which monitor is the primary monitor, but... maybe. They might have finally fixed that. I know with Windows 7 you'd always have to do that if you swapped cables. You'd always have to tell the computer again which monitor was the primary monitor because it would swap them around. Yeah, I'm gonna give myself some space here. Yeah, some things are definitely not loading properly. And I don't know why. Because it's only using 8 gigs of VRAM. So it's got extra VRAM to work with. Might be just a quirk of DirectX 11 though, because I am running it on DirectX 11 as well. I've literally changed 2 things for this. If I'm running with the scaling way up, and I'm also running on DirectX 11. But yeah, there's a chance what I saw, the artifacting I saw, was just this cable is bad. Which would be nice, because replacing a cable is a lot cheaper than replacing a whole monitor. The problem is finding a cable that's actually good. Because, like, there really aren't cable reviewers, you know? No one cares that much. But especially in a case of, like, converting the signal from DisplayPort to HDMI, I do imagine there's a lot of wiggle room for companies to screw that up. And I am literally using, like, the cheapest cable from Amazon, so... pull in for a wait, yep. Wait. Okay, I guess I'm going in this way. It's a bit weird, but okay. Really sketchy doing that in the fog, but, you know. It does look really nice. I seem to be losing connection to the Twitch chat. Yet I'm not dropping frames, and my connection seems fine. Huh. Twitch might just be having problems right now. Wouldn't be the first time. Won't be the last. E. EA Sports. Man, that's another thing that, like, that used to be, like, such a seal of, man, this is gonna be a pretty decent sports game, and now it's EA. Like... It's also something I heard a lot, because we had the Harry Potter Quidditch game on the PS2. And, like, that was an EA Sports game. So, like, every time you'd launch the game, it'd be EA Sports! Challenge everything! Like, that'd just be every time the game was turned on. And it was turned on a lot, because my older siblings, 2 of them enjoyed the game a lot. So, you'd hear that a lot, almost on a daily basis. It kind of drives you insane after a while. I say as someone who used to play Dynasty Warriors 4 Empires obsessively, to the point where I could probably still quote a lot of the dialogue that just always plays. For example, I was about to read off and then my brain just completely derped. Rise up, children of the yellow turbans. Purge the land of these infidels, and bring forth an age of peace. Something like that. It's probably pretty close. It's really early in the default scenario with the Yellow Turban Uprising. The only time you don't hear that dialogue is if you're playing as the Yellow Turbans, which also completely changes how that scenario plays out, because you don't start with multiple areas no matter who you start as. So... though I almost always started with Liu Bei, so I almost always heard it. Imagine that, the guy who constantly preaches, like, peace above all else, and treating everyone fairly, equally, and with, you know, with benevolence, always chose the guy in Dynasty Warriors who basically spouts benevolence all the time. Imagine that. Even now, I still tend to go Shu with almost anything in Dynasty Warriors. It's like... it's just how I am. Basically, of the big 3, you get Shu, which is peace through kindness. Wei, peace through strength. Wu, please leave us alone. Like... they're basically just peace through leave us alone. Which doesn't work out so great for them. Yeah, we used to have quite a few sports games. I mean, we still have the games. I never played many of them, because I'm not big into sports. Never really was. But, like, at the very least, EA sports games used to be at least pretty decent, and anyone could just kind of pick them up, have fun with them. Even if you weren't into sports, I know, because I could, and I wasn't into sports. They really weren't things that I could sit down and play for a long time, but they were fun for like an hour. They were good rental games. That's a good way to put it. They're good as a rental. You know, pay $1, play them for a weekend, return it. I miss video game rentals. Man, Steam should offer rentals of games. Can you imagine how cool that would be? I mean, no company's going to get behind it, because that's just going to make piracy even easier. Now the pirates don't even have to fully buy the game to pirate it. But, like, you know, to crack it, and then there's a torrent out, and, you know. So, like, no company would get behind this. But, like, if you could go onto Steam, and rather than, you know, hoping a game has a demo, or buying it, trying it for a few hours, and then going through the return process, you could just rent a game for, like, a weekend kind of thing. And then once the weekend is up, you lose the ability to play the game. Steam has the capability of doing that. They've proven this with free weekends. Like, Steam could do it. Like, you pay, like, you know, $10 to rent the game for the weekend. Developer gets 8 of that. Steam gets 2. It's a win-win for everybody. Because then you get to try games before you buy them. And the developer gets extra money from people who can't afford to buy the game. Now, like, as I made mention of, no developer would get behind that. Because, you know, if their game doesn't have DRM, well, you've just given people a massive discount on the game. Because all they have to do is basically make a copy of the game, and ta-da, now they get to keep it forever. With maybe a minor crack to get around Steam's free weekend stuff. Which wouldn't be all that difficult. And it would make cracking games cheaper. But games are going to get cracked anyway. People who are going to pirate games are going to pirate games anyway. Like, when I was younger, when I would pirate a game, it was because I couldn't afford it. Like, if I couldn't have pirated it, I just wouldn't have played it. Simple as that. Like, it's not like I wouldn't have suddenly bought the game because I can't pirate it. No, I couldn't buy it. I didn't have the money. I was broke. Which is something a lot of people don't seem to understand about piracy. It's like, you're never gonna stop it, and the people who are pirating games were probably never gonna buy it in the first place. And pirating it probably would lead them to be more likely to buy it in the future. Oh, hey, I'm in Ontario. Too bad it's not Ontario, Canada. Man, I want Canada DLC for this game so badly. I want to be able to drive around Canada and never leave Canada. Just be a Canadian driver. Someday, maybe. And, like, as I've explained before with piracy, like, basically I used it to, one, play games I couldn't have played otherwise. Or as a way of getting a demo for a game, because demos suck. They have for a long time, but they've gotten worse over the years. Like, we've gone from demo builds being basically completely different from the base game to just not having anything in them, really. Like, it used to be when a demo was being made for, like, a demo disc or whatever, it would basically be an entirely new game built from the ground up, because they wouldn't have much playable when they're making the demo. So they would just make something new, which is why a lot of old demos don't really tend to match up with the game they're for, but they give you an idea to a degree. Then you get a lot of modern demos, which are like, yeah, here's like 5 minutes of gameplay, a bunch of pre-rendered cutscene, and yeah, you have like nothing. You can't really do anything. Buy our game. It's like, why? You haven't even sold me on your game. Why would I buy it? Or there just won't be a demo, because demos are seen of as irrelevant these days, because most people will just buy a game. It's only really indie games that still have demos, because people won't just buy an indie game. They actually, you know, look at it and go, well, we should probably make sure it's good first. I just watched a car vanish. Aliens got him. I mean, a lot of indie games also use demos as free testing. Like, let's be real. That's what a lot of indie game demos are. They're free testing, so they can release the demo before the game, get free testing done, and, you know, they don't have to worry about paying someone to test their game. The issue then comes with demos being out way too long before the full game comes out, because then by the time the full game comes out, your game no longer has a player base, because everyone played it during the demo and got bored of it and moved on. Like, that's a big issue that a lot of early access games have, is they just spend too long in early access. And as much as, you know, as much as you'd like to hope differently, people treat early access releases like a full release of a game. They treat it like the developer is saying, yes, this is ready for everyone to play, and that's about as far as it goes. Like, so if your early access is bad on top of being long, well, now you may as well just shut your doors, move on to a different game, because you've doomed that game. So, like, I'm kind of explaining why demos have become irrelevant, but that's kind of the advantage of a demo, because usually it's something that's launched alongside the game. So, you know, you can play it to get a taste of the game before you invest into the game. I mean, there's very few games that actually do decent demos these days. And usually the demo is, here's like the first hour of the game, have fun. Which, I mean, is decent enough for a demo, but like, a lot of games that doesn't really work too well with. Like, if the first hour of the game is boring and mostly just lore dumping, that's not a very good demo. Which is actually where the Monster Hunter Stories games have been really good, is you basically get to play through effectively Chapter 1 of those games. But very little of that is lore dumping. It's, you get to run around, ride your monster, fight other monsters. You know, you get to have fun, experience the fun of the game. Instead of, here's all of the lore. It's like, but I don't need that right now. I just want to experience the game. So I do think this delivery will probably be my last one for the stream, because it has been 3 hours now. I am getting very hungry, so I should, you know, eat. And I really don't feel like eating on stream again today. Especially because I can't really eat and drive. Driving kind of requires a little too much attention. You know, attention I'm clearly paying to things. For anyone who thinks that might actually have been impressive that I made that turn, I was looking at OBS. I know I kind of ruined the joke, but... I would be a terrible magician, because I'd give away too many of the secrets. Turning the scaling down was a good idea. I've had AMD's performance metrics up this whole time, and with the scaling at 400%, my junction temperature was like 20 degrees higher than my core temp, like my average temp. So now it's like 8 to 10 degrees, which is far closer to what it should be. But I was also, from what I understand, effectively rendering the game at 4K and scaling it down to 1080p. So, you know, given this is a 1440p advertised graphics card, you know. You don't want my teeth. White car, what are you doing? Why are you there? Well, I suppose it's the same notion. Oil tanker, what are you doing? But, you know. That white car came up so fast and then slowed down. I don't think I have a complete tooth left in my mouth, so you really don't want them. Just be a bunch of shards. And that's why brushing your teeth is important. You'll have a decently hard time getting to that. There's a lot of me in the way of that. So I don't know if that'd be worth the effort. is that vehicle going so slow? Its speed limit's higher than mine. Yet it's going like 105-ish. Yeah, I think I will actually start working on a Fire Emblem series as well. I know I'm trying to get the Monster Hunter series going, but like, I want to do Fire Emblem now. Could have guessed. I am still really sad there is no Great Jagras in Rise. Same with Great Jaggy. Where's my Great Jaggy, Capcom? I want Great Jaggy back. I'm a Great Jagster. I mean, there would be nothing stopping researchers from bringing Great Jagras back to the mainland. And given there are regular Jagras, you know. I don't want to go that way. I'm going this way. Can't stop me. Can't stop me, coppers. Can't stop me. And that is how my truck gets damaged. I mean, there's a lot of monsters that I really feel like Rise missed out on. I mean, for one, Kieran. Why no Kieran? Like, where's my Kieran? But then, you know, no Devil Joe, even though it's old world. Like, Devil Joe should be kicking around. Kira Peko would have been cool. Lagiacrus. I forget the name of it, but the lanternfish monster. Basically everything from 3. I'm kind of hoping for the next Monster Hunter game they do another Generations style game. Where basically it's you go to every region. Like, that would be nice. Or, you know, just simply do a revamp of Generations, adding Gamora and the New World to it. And having just a lot of monsters, because games can handle that now, Capcom. You could have almost every monster. Though, honestly, I think what I want more than anything is a Monster Hunter MMO. Why could they have never brought Frontiers to the West? It probably would have done so well if they had brought it to the West, but they never did. Initially, a really long time ago. I'm pretty sure it was PS2 era. I can check, though. Let me, I spelled that wrong, but... Okay, I suppose Frontiers G was on the PlayStation 3. But 2007 is the earliest date I'm seeing here. I mean, it ran from 2007 to 2012, basically. Well, 2013, 14. Actually, no, but it went longer than that. I think it was 2016 it shut down. Does the wiki here say it doesn't? I honestly wonder if there's any fan service. I mean, it was basically, from what was described, it was shut down because they were just running into engine problems. They kept running into limitations, and they just got done with it. Which kind of sucks. I wish they would make another one. Like, guys, make another, release it worldwide. People will buy it. But yeah. I'm going to end the stream off here because I am hungry. It's been over 3 hours now. So I'm gonna get to use my fancy new stream ending screen, which looks awful for now. I'm going to see if I can get Robotic to do me some art. Well, art in quotes, because I basically just want words drawn that look nice because it looks better than text. So, like, I'll say this before, like, during that time period of, like, 07 to 2012 was the big boom of MMOs. There being a Monster Hunter MMO released in the West, like, it would have been popular. It would have been really popular. It may have even expanded the general popularity of Monster Hunter itself. Like, it would have been really nice. But, nope. Hopefully they're working on another one and just not told us anything about it yet. Like, I just really want a Monster Hunter MMO. But yeah. I'm gonna go now. So, thank you all very much for watching, and I will hopefully see you back here tomorrow as I probably go back to Final Fantasy XIV. I just really want to get to the Astrologer. Just want to give it a try. That's gonna take so long, but I'm gonna try. So, see you tomorrow.